Good afternoon. It's McCollum on Business. I'm Stephen McCollum, and for the next 30 minutes or so here on this Friday, I'll get you updated on what's happening around the business world. And the easiest way to say it is, well, there's been a flurry of activity here from President Trump, kind of bringing some question marks, of course, into the business world and the markets out there. So we'll look at the market with the Market Watch, stocks we're paying attention to today, as well as, of course, national and local stories you need to know going into this 3-day weekend in terms of the business world. Martin Luther King holiday is on Monday. Markets are closed. Federal stuff is closed. So there will be no show on Monday here from McCollum on Business. We'll be back on Tuesday, 7 a.m. on Tuesday for that new time on Tuesdays there before we go back to 11 on a Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. But Monday we will be off due to the market closures out there. And let's not waste any more time today here on this Friday. Let's get right into that Market Watch. Ooh, big alert just popped up right now. Breaking news. OpenAI is going to begin testing ads on ChatGPT in the U.S. So even our artificial intelligence is going to be giving us ads here coming up, folks. Just what none of us want out there. None of us want to see a Friday of a lot of red on the market, but that's what we're looking at today. The Dow Jones is down the 28 points right now, 49,411,000. S&P 500's nominally down 0.8. Well, it switches to 1 and then down to 0.6 here. 69.44 for the S&P 500. Nasdaq's also down 10 points to 23,517. Russell 2K, that small cap index, the only one bucking this slightly down trend today. It's up 8 points right now to 2688 for the Russell 2K. And then you got Bitcoin out there. You know, been hovering in this 95,000 range, 96,000 yesterday. Well, it's down today. It's down to 95,000. 038 here on this Friday. S&P 500, well, it's a 1 point up right now, slightly up, but it is heading for a losing week here this week overall, even with this slight up today, as we're getting close to the end of the trading day before the 3-day weekend as well. So basically what's happening, all the news from Trump here in the last few hours. For instance, it's not something, it's in a storyline, literally came out earlier today. Trump is floating new tariffs on countries that that will keep him from acquiring Greenland. Let's just put it that way. So now there's a threat of tariffs going on our allies on top of this. That's obviously spooking the market as well here today as we're looking at that. So individual stocks we're looking at. Well, first off, we're going to look at one that has to do with weight loss. Novo Nordisk is what we're going to talk about today. Of course, yesterday in our stocks to watch, we looked at Eli Lilly. Their weight loss pill was going to be pushed back and not be looked at to be approved until April now, causing their stock to go down yesterday. Novo Nordisk has the opposite problem. They're 7 points up here today, 7.83% right now. That Wegovy obesity drug, the pill that they've come out with, well, sales of that pill, that oral weight loss treatment pill, it got off to a strong start here. They're the first ones to hit the market with a pill version of their weight loss program. In the first week of its launch here, the Wegovy pill had about 1.3% of Wegovy's prescriptions were actually for the pill version of it. So obviously good news. They're the first ones out with it. The market obviously will change a little bit as Eli Lilly's pill does come into the market, but we're not looking till April, at least of right now. So Novo Nordisk got a positive side here with that new oral pill coming out, 7.69% for Novo Nordisk up here today. Then we'll look at AST Space Mobile out there. So it's a rocket launch company. SpaceX is in this industry as well. For those of you wondering what AST Space Mobile does, they're at 14.91% right now. They've been winning some contracts lately. And, well, they were picked as a primary contractor for the U.S. Missile Defense Agency's SHIELD program. Yes, it's all part of the Trump administration's Golden Dome, as they call it. Well, it's basically you can, stop missiles from coming in from above, and it fires anti-missile stuff up into the air. Kind of what similar to what Israel has over their city. So AST Space Mobile is developing a low Earth satellite broadband system that will work in a number of areas on that Golden Dome project out there. So, good news for them. AST Space Mobile up 15.10% right now based off of that news. And then let's look at Micron Technology, their chip maker out there. They climbed a little bit here today, 5.28% for them. Their board member, Mark Liu, he came out in a securities filing, is where we found this news. He bought $7.8 million of stock at market prices for Micron Technologies out there. The purchases, why are they important? Well, it's because Micron shares are already up more than 246% over the past 12 months. And he just bought 7.8 million at that market rate. Yeah, he could have obviously got him a lot cheaper a year ago if he would have done it then. But he's got confidence in that stock, obviously. 7.8 million reasons to be confident in the stock that it's going to continue to go up. So that's why Micron Technologies, that chip maker's up 5.30% as of right now. Stocks, when we come back and look at the stocks again later on in the show, we're going to look at energy stocks out there. That'll be our focus. Well, a lot of reasons why, but Trump administration doing some pushing here in that field, and it's going to affect those stocks. So we'll get into that here in just a little bit as well. But first, let's get into more news out there. As I told you, it's not a story because it just broke, like 20 minutes before showtime. President Trump threatening tariffs on countries that get in the way of the United States taking over Greenland, which is always shaking the market up a little bit today. But some good news in terms of the semiconductor side of things. The United States and Taiwan got together, and on Thursday, they reached a new trade agreement. What it's going to do is it's going to reshore semiconductor manufacturing. It's also going to strengthen U.S. supply chains in that field as well. This all information comes to us from the Department of Commerce. The deal does commit Taiwanese semiconductor and technology companies to at least $250 billion in direct U.S. investment. All that's going to advance America first trade and investment. It's going to have an additional $250 billion in credit guarantees to support expansion across the industry's supply chain within the United States. American and Taiwanese officials do say the agreement is designed to reverse decades of offshoring. A lot of that offshoring cut America's share of global semiconductor fabrication. It went from 37% in 1990 to under 10% in 2024. The framework also establishes U.S.-based industrial parks and does set tariff rules. So it does cap U.S. tariffs on Taiwanese auto parts, timber, lumber, and wood derivative goods at 15%. It also zeroes out reciprocal tariffs on select items, things like pharmaceuticals, aircraft components, and even unavailable natural resources are capped as well on those reciprocal tariff side of things. So it's bigger than just, the semiconductor deal, and also focuses on tariffs and other items both countries are kind of concerned about moving forward. So that deal between the U.S. and Taiwan kind of making the waves here today after that announced yesterday. And let's go to a local story, right? It's more of a U.S. story, but and the economy is what we're kind of talking about. We have a mortgage story coming up for those of you on the sidelines there. But first, we got to talk about this, right? We're seeing total consumer bankruptcy filings shoot up here lately as well. 12% up here from 2024 to 2025. Yes, in 2024, there was 478,752 bankruptcy filings. 2025, there was 533,949. That's all according to Quick Acer. That's a platform that provides U.S. bankruptcy filing data. So that system there tracks Chapter 7, Chapter 11, and even Chapter 13 filings. It does rely on data provided through the U.S. courts PACER system. That's the PACER system is what the courts use and houses federal court records. So we're getting it directly from the source here. The rising costs of medical insurance, mounting credit card debt, and even the restart of student loan repayments, all of that combined is serving for some of the major catalysts for bankruptcies. Inflation, well, it's made it tougher for Americans to cover expenses while also paying down their debt. Inflation, well, it's cooled since hitting that 40-year high back in 2022. Prices are still rising faster, though, than the Federal Reserve and what they want at that 2% annual target. We saw that inflation number at 2.7% just this week with those reporting. A December CBS News poll found that most Americans, well, they're struggling to afford basic living costs in the United States. So basic and does include healthcare, food, and housing in that basic category. A bankruptcy filing, well, it can provide consumers with a financial reset, stopping collection calls, even wiping out some or even all of the debt. But the relief does come with trade offs. Bankruptcy can severely damage a credit score and delay the ability to buy a home or even make tough to qualify for loans such as car loans and other loans in the future as well. So we're seeing bankruptcy filings go up as people continue to struggle to live out there. And one reason you're having some people, and most people, all of us, I just did in a grocery order this morning, folks, and it's still not pretty out there. And we've talked about this with beef prices yesterday, the CPI report in terms of food pricing up this week as well. Got a little bit more data for you. And if you paid attention to us here this week at McCollum on Business, well, you know food prices have outpaced overall inflation for most of this last year. And it rose in December at an annual rate, now just the food side, at 3.1%. So that is obviously well above the 2.7% that the rest of the goods out there was up in that same reporting. That was the consumer price index we had earlier this week. On a monthly basis, food prices rose 0.7% last month. That was the largest jump since September of 2022. As you know, those because you pay attention to us here, CPI tracks the rate at which prices rise over time. But here's the interesting thing about food, because every time I place an order, I feel like food's rising quicker and stuff. Well, a lot of economists out there say consumers' perception of food costs, well, it's more likely to be influenced by the prices they see on the store shelves, obviously. Why? Well, because we pay for groceries on a more regular basis than any of the other expenses, right? Electricity's once a month, gas once a month, or, fuel more than once a month, but, every couple weeks or so, weekly or so. It is interesting that perspective makes you think that food is way worse than what it really is, right? Is what we're looking at. The rise in food prices, well, it's being driven by certain food categories specifically. We told you about beef yesterday, still going through the roof, but coffee's a big one as well. That's still sky high, the coffee prices are as well. And they've actually all hit, those two have hit specifically record highs. American households, they spent $310 more on groceries in 2025 than you did in 2024. That comes from a recent report from the Democratic members of the Joint Economic Committee. And I think we can all feel that, right? I order basically the same thing at the grocery store every time I order from there. And I used to only pay like 175. Last year I was paying like 250 every time I went. Ugh. Today's was a little bit higher than that as well. And it's basically the same stuff as before, as I do every time. I just hit the buy again thing, right? Ground coffee, by the way, if you want to get specific on this, ground coffee costs $9.05 per pound in December of 2025. So it was at $6.78 a pound in December of 2024. That's a huge increase. And we tell you about the coffee situation a lot here with the trees, watering of trees, the damage of the coffee beans, etc. Boneless sirloin steak, well, it cost $14.03 per pound in December of 2025. Well, December of 2024 was only $11.67 per pound in 2024. Even the lettuce isn't escaping it. Romaine lettuce, well, it was $3.47 per pound in December 2025. $3.03 in December of 2024. So even lettuce taking a big hit here as well. Then there's orange juice, and orange juice is quietly becoming really, really expensive. A 12-ounce can of orange juice from frozen concentrate, well, $4.82 in December of 2025. Well, it's up from $4.29 in December of 24. And then this one kind of shocked up me. I buy bananas every time. And it was funny. I saw this story this morning. So I was placing my order to pick up later on today. And our banana prices, at least at the fries I'm at, is more expensive than this. But bananas cost 66 cents per pound in December 2025. Folks, it was about 20 cents more than that when I ordered today. I don't know if that's just my fries or something else. But that's up from 62 cents per pound in December of 24. So specifically, more prices here on the food side. But I did find that story interesting. One, we could get more specific than what we've talked about. last couple days. But then, two, I did find it interesting. You feel the pain of grocery shopping and food pricing because you obviously frequent it more. You spend more on it and you're there more frequently. So you notice those little subtle changes. Like I don't notice the changes at McDonald's very quickly 'cause I'm not there several times a day or multiple times a week, right? But at the grocery store, you do notice that stuff, and you really do. Like I said, didn't even know what banana prices were until I saw this, paid attention to it. I was like, hey, it's gone up since last time I ordered it. Fascinating perspective from that side. Now, here's an interesting thing. If you're in a position, you've been sitting on the sideline to buy a house, well, the average long-term U.S. mortgage rate is now down to its lowest level in more than 3 years. So this 30-year fixed rate mortgage, well, it eased to 6.06% this week. That's down from 6.16% last week for those mortgage rates. Now we get this info from Freddie Mac and Freddie Mae came out with these reporting. 1 year ago, the mortgage rates were around 7.04% at that time. The last time the average rate was lower was September 15th of 2022. It was just a tick lower, 6.02% at that time. Meanwhile, borrowing costs on 15-year fixed rate mortgages, that's obviously 15 years big for the refinancing crowd out there. Well, it fell this week, dropping to 5.38%. It was at 5.46% last week. A year ago, that rate, well, was at 6.27% for the 15-year mortgages. Lower mortgage rates, as you know, boost home buyers' purchasing power. It means you can buy more because that rate goes down, which is good news for you if you're looking for a house as well. Now, obviously, the housing market remains in a deep slump, meaning prices are still high and houses aren't moving out there, right? So the mortgage rate will kind of help make it easier to buy a place out there. However, uncertainty over the market, even the job market, let alone the regular market, as we just talked about bankruptcies out there. They're keeping many would be buyers now as the mortgage rates are falling, inventories out there. Well, now people are kind of pulling back a little bit because of their uncertainty around jobs, the economy as a whole. So it's always something that's popping up here lately from that side of things. Now let's go and have some fun with some sports here as well. World Cup's coming here to America, Canada, and Mexico this summer. And if you wanted tickets, you had to get in a lottery the other day, or else they're going to get really pricey for you. But FIFA, the governing body of the World Cup, did come out, and they said this week they've received more than 500 million ticket requests for this year's World Cup. Yes. So outside the host, like I said, the first game I think is in Mexico. I know the final game's here in the United States, and games will be spread out between the three. But outside of United States, Mexico, and Canada, those states, most requests were made by fans residing in Germany, England, Brazil, Spain, Portugal, Argentina, and Colombia. Not a shocker because they're expected to have good teams. FIFA is asking for up to $8,680 per ticket, folks. Remember, though, they're throwing you a bone if you don't want to pay that much. Yeah, FIFA last month said they would offer $60 tickets for every game to the 48 national federations that are actually in the tournament. Yeah, so they're throwing you a bone there, folks. Good luck getting those ones, right? The federations, meaning the states of the games, will decide how to distribute them to their fans who attended their previous games. It is said the most requested match in the third sales phase. This is like I said, there's several phases here to get tickets, etc. But the most requested match, this is the phase that ran from December 11th through Tuesday of this week. Well, the number one game was Colombia versus Portugal. That was the most requested game. That's on June 27th over in Miami Gardens, Florida. And then the next game on that list was Mexico versus South Korea. That was June 18th. That's actually down in Mexico, Guadalajara. No surprise there that that's a big game as well, being the home team playing. The final game, though, that's going to be July 19th in East Rutherford, New Jersey, is next up. And then the opening game, Mexico and South Africa. That's in Mexico City on June 11th. Those are the games and the orders that they were requested for. So interesting enough for the request in the highest requested ones. A second round game that's going to happen in Toronto on July 2nd was also on that list there of highest requested games. Don't even know who's playing in that game yet. That's an elimination game. You can project out which brackets are going to be there, but you don't even know who's playing in it yet. FIFA did say it would notify people about their ticket applications no earlier than February 5th. They'll allocate them randomly for matches in which demand does exceed availability, because some of those games, too many people ask for tickets. So they'll send them out randomly. Then they'll split it around to other stuff out there as well. Hey, it's the Friday edition of McCollum on Business. We keep it rolling when we come back here. We'll do the market watch, see if there's any flip here to the positive side of things on the market here on this Friday. Of course, we'll look at the stocks we're paying attention to, those energy stocks we talked about earlier. And then we'll look, of course, into local stories. And folks, did you enjoy those chicken noodle soup lozenges last year? Well, we got some new flavors coming your way this year. That'll be our final story today, so stick around. McCollum on Business. And we're back here, McCollum on Business. We having some fun with the business side of things here on this Friday. No show on Monday coming up. Of course, it's Martin Luther King Jr. Day. So no show. Markets will be closed and everything. We'll be back Tuesday morning at 7 o'clock here at McCollum on Business. The Tuesdays are our morning business show days here. Then back to 11 o'clock Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. So nothing on Monday here for McCollum on Business. Of course, the main event is in the can for the week. Up posted here at Robat TV on demand right now, and the podcasting system as well. Google, Spotify, Apple, iHeart, all of them. Free podcast system out there. TME Sports Show is where you can find that if you type that in. Available to you now. I did the show solo today. Dale was off. I had some fun getting you ready for the weekend, and of course going around Major League Baseball with those big signings and everything today. Of course, you can check it out here at YouTube as well at TME Sports Show, and you will find that out there. This show, as soon as we're done, will get posted on demand as well here today. All of them are up here at Robat TV on demand as soon as we're done live here at 11 o'clock. And then, of course, YouTube page as well. No podcast for this show at all. Pit Stop, we're getting ready to roll that out here for the rest, for the racing season. NASCAR's getting away here in a couple weeks. And then, of course, IndyCar in March 1st. And then we'll get into F1 and other series coming your way. This year, another season of the Pit Stop coming up. Follow me at the Pit Stop Talk in terms of the social media. Like and subscribe to the free podcast system as well. All your favorite systems at the Pit Stop Talk is where you can find the podcasts. Then, of course, on the YouTube page as well here. As we'll talk racing this year, and we'll have the format of the show coming out, as well as the dates of announcements of when the shows will be coming out. All of that coming your way here shortly here in the next week or so as we're getting closer to the racing season. The other one is The Real Matrix. We've been producing that show there for the Angry Fan, and first 13 episodes are up here. New episode up here at Robat TV on Fridays at 10 o'clock. Well, Robot TV will release the full hour version of The Real Matrix here at Robot TV at 10 a.m. That is up for this week. Episode 13 is up here today. Of course, the Angry Patriot does ask that you come in with an open mind into the watching the program. He wants to show you kind of what's out there, put out the information for you, and let you decide what you believe with that. The Real Matrix on demand here, 10 o'clock on Robot TV, on the podcast system, on your favorite podcast systems, at The Real Matrix. Well, that is going to be out there as well. That actually, the podcast version will be out about noon here on Fridays. Just search The Real Matrix on your favorite podcasting system, and you'll see that pop right up. And the same thing on the YouTube channel as well. Around noon here as well for our production side of things, for the shows we produce here, noon on Fridays as well for that. So Robot TV at 10. Make sure you're catching it and help out the Angry Patriot and support that programming as well if it's something you would like to watch out there. And folks, with all that being said, here on this Friday, let's get right back into that Market Watch. And as I said, everything's kind of flipped here. Barely. It's flipped to the positive. Everything was in the red earlier except for the Russell 2K. This is probably how we're going to end the day. It's probably going to be positive. Everything is up, but like I said earlier, the S&P 500 is up that 10 points right now, but it is going to probably end the week. It's a losing index overall for the week. Well, the Dow Jones is up to 53 points right now. S&P up to 10. Nasdaq's up to 11 points. Russell 2K continuing in the black here as well, or in the green as they say it. 2693 for that small cap index. Bitcoin, well, it's still down overall for the day, but still in that 95,000 range, 95,161. But it is going to the positive side more than going more negative as this day has gone on. Just one of those Fridays with all the news out there with tariffs and around Greenland and Iran's stuff, where all of our strike forces are headed over to that region. A lot of uncertainty in the markets right now. And then for the stocks now, we're going to look at energy stocks. First one we're going to pull up is GE Vernova out there. We got 4 stocks in the energy stocks field. The Trump administration is pushing for technology companies to bankroll power plants, all because of the rise in those data centers, which are energy guzzlers. They eat a lot of energies. Company tied to electric utility infrastructure obviously rose on that news. That's why GE Vernova is up 6.19% right now. Bloom Energy is the next one we're going to look at. Also up today, 6.84%. We don't have the graph on this one, but it's Quanta Services. They're up about 5%. So that's electric utility infrastructure stocks going up. Interesting enough, if you're an independent power producer, your stock has gone down today. Constellation Energy is down today. They do a lot of nuclear stuff out there. That's the stock we're going to look at right now as well. I can tell you they're down about 10%. Yeah, 10.16% right now for it. And then finally, Vistra, another independent power producer, also down today, 6.27% right now. So those utility infrastructures, people that build the power plants, get that funding, well, they're up. Independent power producers, though, down today based off of that news out of the Trump administration here earlier today. That's just the example of how the Trump administration can influence the thoughts around the investment side of things and everything. Then finally, let's get into some local stories here as well before we get into cough drops that taste like food later on here coming up. And interesting enough, right? We know data centers are here. We know people are building data centers out here in the Phoenix area in huge amounts and everything. And now Amazon, they're pushing to build massive artificial intelligence data centers. We've known that for a while, but now they're extending into Arizona officially now. There's a recently restarted copper mine is supplying industrial metal that is affecting these data centers. And it's obviously copper. We've talked about this before, hit record highs in prices. Copper has become increasingly critical to powering that AI infrastructure. So on Thursday, the Wall Street Journal had a big expose, I'll call it, They reported that Amazon Web Services, that's the AWS you always hear about, they signed a 2-year agreement with mining giant Rio Tinto's Newton's venture down there in Tucson. They're going to secure copper supplies tied to its expanding AI data centers. The Arizona mine outside of Tucson, as I said, it's called the Johnson Camp Mine. It is using Rio Tinton's Newton bioleaching technology to get the copper out. Well, it became one of the first new U.S. copper production sources in more than a decade. And that was when it resumed its operations last year down there. The agreement does cover approximately 14,000 metric tons of copper cathode over 4 years, is what the deal is. The average data center, by the way, roughly 5,000 to 15,000 tons of copper is what it uses. So obviously a small portion of what they need. But larger facilities, well, that can require tens of thousands more. That's all for wiring, transformers, circuit boards, everything that used to power it for the power systems. So this supply represents, as I said, a small fraction of the copper needed for a single large data center. So they got that deal to help them out, but there's a substantial overall copper demand that is still out there with all these AI buildings that are going up there. Amazon does say it's targeting lower carbon materials across its supply chain. The copper will be supplied to manufacturers to make components for AWS data centers, while AWS providing cloud computing and data analytics support to help Rio Tinton optimize the Newton copper production and recovery down there. So it is kind of a trade-off here between the two companies. They're both getting something out of it other than money there. But look, it's Amazon's getting involved in the copper production, and copper has been at a record level since last year and continuing to be so. So it's interesting move here by Amazon continuing to move forward. And we told you yesterday about Affordable Care. No, I think it was yesterday. It might have been Wednesday. We told you that overall, from the national standpoint, people enrolling in the Affordable Care Act was way down for this year. Well, yesterday was the final day to do so. And we have some numbers here specifically for the Arizona market and who signed up, and more importantly, who didn't in terms of the numbers here. Enhanced premium tax credits, are the big reason why enrollees decided not to sign up. Well, so 70,000 Arizonans now appear to be dropping their coverage of the ACA. And like I said, that number will get worse. So just because you sign up, yes, it means you have insurance, but you still have to make a payment first. So you're going to see more people drop off as they didn't make their January payment. So that number is going to get worse here. But 70,000 Arizonans specifically decided not to go down that path due to the pricing. And obviously, there's a big battle out there on the relief that you can get. And is that good? Is that not good? Is it enough? It's still expensive without it. Arizona's ACA enrollment, it increased 177% from 2020 to 2025. Now down today as well. So without the tax credits this year, enrollees are seeing their costs increase 114% on average from last year. We get all this from a company called KFF, who does this data tracking. And according to data from the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services, at this point last year, 423,025 Arizonans had selected plans. That was a record last year. As of this Monday, with a couple days to go before it expired, only 353,000 Arizonans had signed up. That's about a 17% decrease at this point. And like I said, it's going to get worse because some people selected their plan in December and they just didn't make a payment in January. They're going to drop off here by not making those plans as well. So we see some Arizona numbers on how people are avoiding that health insurance due to pricing. And, of course, goes to that bankruptcy story we had earlier and everything else as well. And it doesn't help at all when lawmakers and the governor are fighting over tax breaks while we're in the tax season, folks. That's happening right now here in Arizona. Lawmakers and the governor, they're fighting and trying to figure out how to conform with the changes to the federal tax law. That's all part of that President Trump's, big beautiful bill that was passed in July of last year, and what to do here in Arizona with it. We've told you before, the Republicans want the whole big beautiful bill, the federal cuts, to become law in Arizona, and the governor only wants parts of it to come down here into Arizona. And it is going to affect your tax filing season. Republican state lawmakers plan to fully conform to the federal adjustments in that bill, changes that would result in massive tax cuts to the tune of $441 million in this new fiscal year, which, of course, is 2026. Governor Hobbs, however, she prefers to potentially conform to the new tax codes a little bit. That would result in a smaller reduction rate in the state income tax revenues. Officials at the Arizona Department of Revenue said at a legislative hearing this week, the agency has already published the forms and the guidance to taxpayers, and it doesn't match either the governor's or the GOP PAC proposals. We're right. Tax season literally is starting right now, and everything's out for it, and they could be making big changes here. Revenue officials said they were following the governor's orders to assume conformity with the federal tax code while also adding provisions from Hobbs' middle class tax cut proposal. Obviously, the battle is the governor and the Democrats think that only the rich are getting tax cuts with the GOP version. GOPs want theirs to go through with the bigger price cut there as well. The Democrats say they want to focus more on middle class side of it. That's the public argument, at least between them. Agency officials also said they've begun to receive some of Arizona's early tax returns. The tax season actually starts on January 27th, just so you know. But some people are still submitting them early, right? So if either the Republican or even the Democratic run, the preferred tax changes are adopted, well, you might have to be forced to refile your taxes to take advantage of. The good news is, if the GOP one's in, you might actually get a bigger tax cut and break on that side. Then, depending on if you take a bigger one early, you might have to give some money back here on the Democratic one goes through as well. Yesterday, Republican lawmakers advanced their own tax conformity measure on a party line vote, and then they plan to hold votes in the full House or Senate to send the proposal to the governor's desk. Well, Hobbs said that she's going to reject it because she doesn't want the higher tax cuts to go through. She's the ultimate vote on that. But that battle's raging right now here in Arizona, right in the middle of tax season, folks. And now let's go up to North Phoenix here. At least we talked earlier, right? The U.S. and Taiwan have come together with a chip manufacturing compromise, I guess we should say. We talked about that at the beginning of the show. And if you missed that, you can go back and check it out here on demand. But now we know TSMC up there in North Phoenix, they are the world's largest computer chip maker. They actually plan to increase its capital spending by as much as 40% this year. That was after it reported that 35% jump in its net profit for the latest quarter. It's all because of the jump here and the excitement and the excelling here of artificial intelligence spending out there. So 40% in spending, right? TMC has pledged around $165 billion of investments in the U.S., and they said Thursday it's speeding up construction of its new plants here in Arizona. Remember, they're buying all that extra land. They bought all that extra land up there to expand as well. They want to create a fabrication plant cluster and then meet all this strong demand that they have from their clients. Taiwan Semiconductor, well, they're a major supplier to companies, including NVIDIA, even Apple out there. They reported that net profit of 506 billion new Taiwan dollars. That's 16 billion in profit, folks. 35% profit. That's on top of profit gains the previous quarter as well. So 35% here to end the year for them. They were asked, Taiwan Semiconductor was asked about concerns over the AI bubble out there. And a lot of money being spent in AI that we're not sure the market, some people in the market aren't sure all this money being spent on AI is going to pay off. Well, TSMC chairman and CEO said he is confident that the growing demand from customers is real and will continue moving forward. Last thing we need is the giant new empty buildings up there in North Phoenix as well. And folks, I'll leave you with this story here today. Don't forget, we're off on Monday due to the MLK holiday here on Monday. We'll be back Tuesday morning at 7 o'clock. If you're not feeling well, you're under the weather. I've been not feeling well the last couple of days myself. And I don't know if I am sick enough to try this, but Progresso has dropped 2 new flavors of its limited edition soup drops. Yes. So if you don't want to have a bowl of soup, but you want to suck on something that tastes like soup, I don't know how to phrase that, folks. Remember last year, Progresso, came out and they did the soup drops of chicken noodle flavor is what they did last year. The first batch of the chicken noodle ones was marketed as soup you can suck on. It sold out in under an hour last year. Then Progresso released the candy weekly throughout January following that initial success of it. So this week, they came out and they announced 2 new flavors, 2 new hard candy flavors for soup lovers to enjoy. The new batch, they say, warms in your mouth. What it says on the packaging, folks. Progresso will be introducing these 2 new flavors, tomato basil soup drop and beef pot roast soup drop as well, coming your way. The good news is, if you like those chicken noodle ones last year, chicken noodle soup drop will return also here in January. Actually, today, to be honest with you. The Progresso soup drops will be available for purchase as of yesterday, 9 a.m. Eastern time. It's available at all Walmarts out there. If you missed the first batch, they will be coming out with new ones weekly here through the month of January. If you buy the product, you'll receive a bundle pack. It includes a can of Progresso chicken noodle soup, even a Progresso soup drops variety can. Contains all 3 flavors as well. All of this retails for $2.97, which is about the price of a can of Progresso soup. Why don't you just get a can of soup? As I said, if you missed the release yesterday and they are sold out at Walmart, soup drops will go on sale every Thursday throughout January. Obviously, while supplies last out there on the Walmart website as well. So don't fret if you missed out on yesterday. Just be ready on this Thursday to get on there and buy them. But 2 new flavors coming your way after that huge success of the chicken noodle ones last year as well. So, folks, I'll leave you with that. And I did read a lot of the reviews last year. I remember it. A lot of the reviews were how accurate it tasted, a chicken noodle soup. And people love those things. I don't know about the 2 new flavors, but if they keep that going, we're on the right track, right? Most of the time when they do that, it doesn't taste anything like what you want it to taste like out there. So, folks, I appreciate you joining me here on this Friday edition, of course, of McCollum on Business. We'll be back on Tuesday with the holiday on Monday. McCollum on Business will be here Tuesday, 7 a.m. Come and join us, would you? We'll see you then on demand here at Robat TV, YouTube page as well. And, of course, all the other shows out on their podcast systems, folks. Have a great weekend. Enjoy your NFL football. Enjoy the weather we have as well. We'll see you on Tuesday here, 7 a.m. for our morning show on Tuesday here at McCollum on Business.